Hi, everyone. My name is Regina. Normally, you would find me in Regina's Baking Academy, where I talk about how baking is cool. But one of my awesome mentors, uh, the Jason Hodge, uh, has given me an awesome opportunity to be part of this Vlogma community. And to be honest, I've been looking at the Vlogmas over the last couple of weeks, and there's some really awesome talent out there. I'm going to tell you, I felt a little, hey, Shauna, I felt a little overwhelmed and a touch intimidated because you guys are rocking it with the technology and live streaming and YouTube and stuff. And I'm like, how am I going to be in this space with all this great talent? And something said, Regina, the best way to do it is take the first step. So here I am. Uh, I will get better as we go further. There's definitely a wealth of information. I've been looking and following um, some of the people in this community. The videos and the instruction, awesome. So I first want to say thank you for creating this space for newbies like me that have been interested in this arena and not quite knowing how to uh, situate myself. So I feel like I've been like in a mastermind for the past couple of weeks, and it is, the wealth of information, everything from the technology for beginners like me, and y'all have one dynamic vlogger. Her name is Diane, and I believe she hails from Chicago. She is awesome. Like, she was one of the first ones I saw, and I was like, wow, I like the way she's very direct, um, very informative, great information, easy to understand. She's straight no chaser, so I really appreciate that. And hey, Harry, he's another one of my mentors, and really me being in this space started from a challenge that he gave back in October with the 100 live stream challenge with hashtag Harry the Big Dog. It's 100. It was the 100 live stream personal challenge. Let me get that right. So it allowed me to open up to what's out here, right? All these great platforms, social media, you being able to share your story, be of service, let people know that you have something that you want to offer, but do it in a way where people are interested. So, if you want to know who I am Regina from Regina's Baking Academy. And what I enjoy doing is teaching people how to bake. And even better than that, teaching people how to enjoy and not feel overwhelmed by being in the kitchen. So I figured if I could teach people how to bake, then I can learn how to be a vlogger. So I hope I'm getting it right so far, so good. But I figured since I'm in this space, why don't I talk about something that I'm pretty good at and I'm extra excited about? So one of the things that I've done for a while, at over 15 years, is bake. Freshly made stuff, cakes, cookies, pies, cobblers, brownies, you know, all that good stuff. And I really enjoy showing people how to do it. I think for a while I had customers and that sort of thing, and I still have some. But what really got me excited about baking, and what got me excited when I do have people that say, "Hey, can you make me this or do that?" is the response they get. When you trust someone with your taste buds, and you trust that when you get that thing you asked for, when you open it up and you sit down, and if it's for a party and you showing it off, that you won't be disappointed or embarrassed, right? And then not only will you get something that looks pretty, but it tastes delicious. So while I was excited, and I still am excited that people come to me for all those delicious treats, what I became more passionate about, I said, well, when I was growing up, my grandma was old school. She cooked everything, right? We were guaranteed on Sunday we'd have collard greens on the stove, baked chicken or some short ribs or something like that, and some corn muffins, and just really good home cooking. And so I kind of took it for granted that a lot of people ate that way because that's how we grew up. And a lot of our friends grew up like that too. I didn't realize as I got older that that's not really the case. And you have a lot more people now because everyone is working. Some people have two jobs. Some people trying to elevate, so they're in college and they're going to work. So they're not eating home cooking. I remember having a talk with someone about making some macaroni and cheese and some cabbage and neck bones, and they looked at me like, "What you know about that?" I said, "Let me help you all the way out. Not only do I know about that, I know how to fix all about that. Okay, but what made me think about the cakes and why I started baking is because I'm a mom. Now all of my babes are grown. They think they're grown. I still got one in college. But when they were younger, they have birthdays. Kids have birthdays, right? And I have a few. I had some children, and then it was my husband and I. And I'm like, cakes are expensive. And thank you, Harry. And I said, well, it started adding up. Birthday here, birthday there. That's 6 birthdays a year. But what really got me into baking, guys, true story. My children came home from school one day, and I think it was Ebony, my second oldest, because she was always outspoken, more so than her siblings, until they got older. Then I feel like all of them are just outspoken. But this particular day, it was around Christmas time, and she was like, "Mom, where can we go get something for our teachers for Christmas?" And at that time, I was in between. I wasn't working. As a matter of fact, I had tapped out and decided to stay home and raise my kids because I was, have them go to work, have them go to work, have them go to work. And then I had another one. I was like, dag, I'm missing everything. I'm missing first steps, first words. I'm going to stay home and I'm going to be an actively engaged parent. So that's what I did. It didn't matter that I went to school and all that. Nobody cared about that, right? So, I'm looking at my daughter and I'm like, well, change was strange because it was 2 incomes, then it went down to one. So she's like, "Mom, can we go to Rite Aid to get our teacher?" You know how they had a little makeup and the perfume kit you get for like $25 or something like that. Now remember, I have children, so I had 3 in school at the time. All 3 of them were in elementary school at the same time, and like I think third, the first, third, and fifth grade, all at the same time. So after she comes in, here comes the other one, and here comes the other one. Thank God my baby wasn't in school yet. So I said, well, what can I do? Because they really had some great teachers. I love, 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 love their teachers. It was really, they were great. So I wanted to do something. I didn't, you don't want your kids to feel bad because you don't have it. I mean, if I really didn't have it, you don't have what you don't have. But I was like, hey, wait a minute. I told her, don't worry, we're going to do something. We're going to do it. So I was in the kitchen fixing breakfast because I fix breakfast, oatmeal, cream of wheat, grits, all of that. I'm country, y'all. I'm city born, country raised. That's how it is. Don't judge me. I don't care if you do. But I was in the kitchen one day making that oatmeal for breakfast, and I said, oh, there's a recipe on top. There was an oatmeal raisin cookie recipe. So I said, okay, bet. I can make oatmeal raisin cookies and, make them up nice, decorated, put them in a cookie tin. And I could do that. So then it wasn't quite Christmas yet, but it was like a couple of weeks prior. So I had to go shopping, and I went to the supermarket and I looked at the chocolate chip morsels, Nestle's, and they had a recipe for chocolate chip cookies. So I said, aha, I know what to do for their Christmas presents. So all of their teachers that year got a big old container of oatmeal raisin and chocolate chip cookies. Well, that started it, y'all. I went from baking two types of cookies to 30 types of cookies and oatmeal raisin, double chocolate chip, uh, macadamia nut chocolate chip, walnut chocolate chip, lemon crunch, pumpkin cookies, ginger snaps, oatmeal raisin. I started doing zucchini breads and all this. I mean, I was just in it. But I don't know about y'all, but when you do something that you like it and you want to really you want to perfect it, for me, it's school. So I went to culinary school. Yes, I did. I went back to school after going for a bachelor's and a master's. I'm in culinary school. So I went to culinary school for pastry arts, and I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So I was looking at stuff, and they were teaching me things. I'm like, wow, grandma used to do this. My grandmother cooked everything from scratch, except she did use Jiffy corn muffin mix when it came to the corn muffins, but she made pan bread. And if anybody out there know about pan bread, that's some good bread. You put in the skillet. I don't know how she did it. I saw her mixing some flour and some uh, salt, and she used manteca. Anybody know about manteca? That lard? Yeah, it was lard. It was the green box, and it was sit in the window in the kitchen. And she used that, and she mixed that up, and somehow we had bread, and that bread was always good, and it was always good with breakfast. But she used Jiffy corn muffin mix when she made the corn muffins, y'all. But that's okay. 85% of what I got, no, closer to 90% of what Grandma made was from scratch, from the vegetables to the meats to everything. Sweet potato pies, nobody better. Still, nobody better. So I went to culinary school because I wanted to be better at baking. I wanted to really perfect it. I wanted to, I was like, I'm going to open up this shop. I'm going to do this and that. Well, I did it for a little while. But then, you know, kids get older. You're like, okay, they need a few things. The business wasn't picking up like I thought it would. So I went back to what I used to do, working in the nonprofit sector. So I took, went back and did that. But I was still baking. I started baking for my church. I was baking for school. I had some clients. Housewarmers, birthday parties, weddings, all of that kind of stuff while I was working at the, I call it my outside job, right? But what I realized is that people started asking me questions when I would bring the cake. They would say, "Oh, how did you do that?" Or what do you put in that? And how did you make that? And I enjoyed teaching. I actually had a summer program with young folks, little bits. They were between 5 and 13. I had about 20, and we did a baking clinic. It was so much fun. So I decided. Now, fast forward. This was maybe about 17 years ago when I started baking, like really baking. So I've been doing it ever since. But along the way, I've taught groups with children, adults, and that sort of thing. Now, here comes COVID, right? Boom! Everything shut down. So I'm like, hey, what is going on around here? I can't go to work. Everything closed down. So I said I have to use what I have because I can't sit around and do nothing, right? So I said, you know what? I love teaching, I love helping, and I love baking. When the kids were younger, I used to bake them whatever they wanted, whatever cake they wanted. Princess cakes, character cakes, Scooby Doo, all of that kind of stuff. Bible cakes, red velvet, coconut, chocolate, whatever they wanted, they got it, right? So I said, well, why don't I teach some people how to do what I learned how to do? They don't have to go to culinary school, but they can get the benefit of all my knowledge. So I started Regina's Baking Academy, right? And it was pretty cool, and I was doing okay. And I had a plan, sort of. But then what happened was, my good sis said, Regina, why don't I introduce you to Jason, the Jason Hodge? And he sent me this link about doing a survey to do an assessment. I was like, yeah, I can knock that out because, I've done that kind of stuff. No problem. I was wrong. Problem. So I did it anyway. It was very vigorous, very, introspective, and I had to really take my time. So I did that. Sent it in. I'm like, whoo, doo, 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 doo. Next thing you know, I get an email saying, we want you to now do a deeper dive. So we're going to have what they call the hot seat. So it was 3 fantastic guys. It was Harry the big dog, Harry Jameson. We had the Jason Hodge, and we had Chris. Is it Chris? Ooh, Harry, don't get me wrong on Chris's last name. He gonna kill me because I look at his stuff all the time. And but they put me in a hot seat, y'all. And I thought I was good because I said, yeah, I got my business plan. I don't need much. Maybe they're just going to ask me a couple of questions. Anyway, I realized that I was totally not tapped into the potential of what I could do. And they had taken the time to thoroughly, I say thoroughly, Chris Gloss, yes, thoroughly helped me unpack the hidden potential that I didn't even know was there. So then they challenged me, y'all, to a live stream personal challenge. I had to do 100 videos in 31 days. Let me help you understand something. I didn't like videos. I didn't do Facebook. You know how you had those people that hit like or they put hearts in there or they say, oh, happy birthday, congratulations, but you never see them do a live? That was me. But I said, you know what? It's time to go past what I've been doing because what I've been doing hasn't really got me that far. So why don't I just go out there and, do what I got to get done. Yeah, they did get us. So the challenge was to do 100 lives in 31 days. And guess what? I sat there and I said, well, what could I do? And I'm asking these 3 guys. These guys are pros and experts, not in just one thing. It would have been enough if they were just equally good in one area. No. The 3 of them is like having a panel of 12 because they are just that deep in their stuff. But they simply, when I said, well, what would I do for 100 live videos? They were like, duh. Baking, of course. And I was like, oh yeah, right. Do that. So I did, right? So the first couple of ones I did, I was actually in the group that Harry created. And I did that for a few. And all of a sudden, someone said to me, it's time for you to make your own page. And I was like, I don't need a page. I'm comfortable being in Harry's. They're like, no. If you really want to grow and you want to take yourself to the next level, you got to step outside. And Chris talks about that a lot, stepping outside your comfort zone. So that was huge. Because I had already created a different space under my Facebook page, but I never used it. I didn't know how. So, they guided me with that, and I set it up, and I was like, wow, I'm doing this. This is crazy. but it became fun. It became easier because I was so connected to making sure I was offering a service. So it wasn't so much about, getting your name out there and letting people know who you are, but my focus was, if they're going to know who I am, what do I offer? So if you were to go to Regina's Baking Academy, I have over 100 live videos of teaching baking lessons from start to finish. I did an intro. I did the content. We talked about what the lesson was going to be about. If it was, I did cookies, and more cookies. I did a week of that. We did measurements and more. Then we did different buttercreams, and then we did things around the holiday prep. So in all kinds of stuff, we cookies, cakes, pies. Oh my! And then the frosting. So I teach you how to make from scratch Swiss buttercream frosting, chocolate frosting. Okay, we did all kinds of cakes. I'm telling you, we did lemon bundt cake, pound cake, coconut pineapple cake. Um, we did banana nut bread, muffins, cupcakes, all of that stuff. Sweet potato pie, apple pie, and all of it was from scratch. And so what I did is I took people through the process, and it's about becoming comfortable in your kitchen. Because for folks that aren't familiar with baking, it can seem like a lot, right? Because baking is scientific, right? Because you want to make sure that you're using the right ingredients and that sort of thing. So in my baking academy, I show you how to do that and not feel overwhelmed by it, right? Because baking is cool, and that's what I say. Baking is cool. It's a lot of fun, but it also requires that you pay attention, that you have your mise en place, and mise en place really means things in place, right? You want to make sure you have your ingredients. If you're baking for the first time, then what you want to do is make sure that you have the directions. That's really important. Make sure that you have your oven settings together, because the worst thing to do is to invest in the ingredients and do everything you're supposed to do and the oven's not set at the right temperature, right? We talked about the importance of not opening the oven too fast. You know how you're so excited, you got that thing in the oven and you pull open the oven? Well, the rule of thumb is this, guys. When you're baking something, you have to wait until half that bake time before you open the oven to check your item. For instance, if you're baking a 9-inch cake, on average, depending upon the recipe and the ingredients, it takes between 25 to 35 minutes for a 9-inch cake. Okay? So that means you don't open that oven until between 12 and a half to 15 to 17 minutes, depending on the time. So remember, when you're baking, you got to half the time before you open the oven. Now, we did a lemon bundt cake. I took everyone through the lemon bundt cake. And for that, it was 60 minutes. It was 50 to 60 minutes for the bundt cake, because it's a dense recipe. Matter of fact, it was the lemon bundt cake with the lemon frosting. So good. So I couldn't open that oven until the cake was in there for about 27, 28 minutes. And then I opened it up. So you have to remember, thank you. You have to remember, when you're baking, you have to respect the time and make sure you get the right temperature. Every cake does not cook at 350. Every recipe isn't 25 minutes, okay? So that's why it's important to have the instructions. Follow, they're there for a reason, especially when you're baking. Make sure you have the right ingredients. Make sure you have your right leavening agent. Every recipe doesn't use baking powder. Some use baking powder, some use baking soda. Some recipes use both. So that's why it's important to pay attention, right? And the other thing I always say is, if you are stressing, take a minute and pause. Guys, it's baking. The cupcake isn't going to look at you like you taking too long to mix me up. The butter and the sugar isn't going to say, why you not creaming me like you supposed to? They don't talk back. The ingredients only talk back once you finish and you taste it. So just be easy with yourself when you're in the kitchen. And remember, it's your kitchen. That's your space. So you take the time and do what you know to do. And I always say, if most of us have a job, when you have a job, you got responsibilities. You got a plan of action. You got things you have to do. It's the same thing when you're baking. When you're baking, you got a responsibility, whatever that baked item is. What's the plan of action? It's the ingredients and it's the instructions. What you're doing, your implementation, right? So what's the implementation? You combine those ingredients together per the directions and you execute. What's execution, guys? You put it in the oven, okay? And the completion of your project is when you take it out the oven, okay? So when you are baking, think about using your transferable skills. And we all have transferable skills, okay? And remember, I enjoy baking because it reminds me of when my grandma used to bake and cook. And I remember the smells in the kitchen, the holidays when I knew that my mom was going to make a sakatumi cake. And my grandmother was going to make about 10 or 12 sweet potato pies because everyone loved her sweet potato pies. And I always got two. It wasn't because I was her favorite. It was because I had the most kids. So she know I needed more pie. So, but it's those type of memories that really inspired me to want to bake. And so when I teach people how to bake, not only do you bake the things that you remember from your childhood, maybe your grandma did it or your auntie or even you got that uncle that know how to go in that kitchen and knock things out. But you also can create your own memories. So I say, don't be overwhelmed, you know, just take your time. When you follow the directions and you listen, right? Listening means that you're paying attention. You're not so distracted that you forget and you pour too much salt, too much. When you do things and be patient with yourself and you're patient with the process, 90% of the time you're going to get what you need. And if there is a mistake with your baked item, you just retrace your steps. Well, you review your recipe, make sure you got all your measurements because that's also important too. One of the themes I did for one of my weeks when I was doing the 100 live stream personal challenge is I always emphasize making sure you have your measurements right. If your recipe calls for, let's say you're doing a yellow cake, right? And so it calls for 3 cups of cake flour, 1.5 cups of granulated sugar, 4 ounces of egg yolk because it's a yellow cake, so you're going to use the egg yolk and not the egg white. You're going to use a tablespoon and 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 3/4 teaspoon of salt. Here's the deal with the salt and your leavening agents. Never measure your leavening agent and your salt over your recipe because if you pour too much, it's hard to scoop that out because some of those ingredients look very similar. Okay? So make sure when you're measuring out your leavening agent and your salt, it's away from your main base. So that way you don't mess up a recipe. Because remember, that is your money that you're spending and your time. Guys, your time is your most precious commodity. So you don't want to waste it by rushing. So pace yourself. Be easy. Okay? So what you do is when you're baking, you follow the instructions. Okay? Once you follow the instructions, and guys, it's important to make sure you coat your pan. If you're baking and it tells you to spray the pan, spray the pan. If it tells you to coat it with flour, coat it with flour. If you don't have parchment paper, wax paper is a good substitute. Also, for the yellow cake, you can use a cup of milk, or you can use buttermilk or a buttermilk substitute. Now, a good buttermilk substitute is 1 cup milk and 1 tablespoon of vinegar. Okay, and you can substitute that, and that's what I do most of the time because I don't drink buttermilk like that, and buttermilk isn't cheap. And the cakes come out really nice. Okay, and you make sure you use the right amount of butter. For the yellow cake, I use 2 sticks of butter. Now, 2 sticks of butter. So when we did measurements and more, we talked about measurements. We talked about the difference between a wet measuring cup and a dry measuring cup. We talked about all that good stuff. So when you come to me and you get me, you get my knowledge, my experience, and I pour all that into you. And also, you get to realize that it's not hard, guys. If you can get up and go to work, if you can go to school and take tests, you can bake a cake. You can bake a pie. You can make cookies. You can do it. But if you don't know how, that's where I come in. I get to show you that and show you how to be creative. And one thing I want to say now, when you're baking, stick to the script until you know how to flex. First, get your foundation right. It's like when you start a new job. You can't go in there telling them what you're going to do, what you fitting to do, how you're going to turn things around. No. You find out what the foundation is first. You find out who's who, where the players are. You got to be strategic. You got to know what you're there for. Listen. Don't run your mouth so much. Listen. When you baking, respect the recipe. Respect the ingredients. Look and see what you're doing. Make sure you got your measurements right. Make sure you got your dry measurements right and your wet measurements right. That's really important. Once you get that foundation and understanding, then you can mix stuff up and be creative. But if you start doing it right away and it gets messed up and you're like, well, what happened? Did you follow the directions? Did you use the ingredients? Or did you use an equivalent substitute? Now, there's the difference between using an equivalent substitution and just putting something that doesn't make any sense altogether, right? So remember just now I told you that you can use milk and a tablespoon of vinegar as a substitute for buttermilk. So it's okay to do stuff like that. But what's not okay is to use something that doesn't go with the recipe and you're not sure. And there's so much information, guys, around how to bake and do it well. And if you don't want to go through all of that, that's what I do. I do the research. When I come to you, I have what you need, and we go through it step by step, and we do a deeper dive and have a lot of fun along the way. Because baking is cool and baking is fun. But you know, like the best part is when you take it out the oven and you see it sitting there and you wait for it to cool like 5 or 10 minutes before you take it out the pan and put it on a cooling rack. And you realize you did that. You did it. And what I really enjoy around the holidays is it was different this year because, you know, with COVID and everything, you know, I couldn't have, you know, everyone over like I wanted to. And that bothered me because if you know me, I love my family. I love my kids. And so it was a little different this year. But I still baked. I couldn't help it. I made a coconut. I made a coconut cake with cream cheese frosting and a pineapple filling laid with the coconut flakes. I made an apple pie, sweet potato pie, lemon pound cake. I don't know why I did. It's a habit. It's a habit. Around the holidays, this is what you do. You bake, you feed, you serve. But what's also important, we got Christmas coming up. It's also important to enjoy yourself and enjoy each other. Because we get so caught up in doing stuff in the kitchen. I'd like to say we don't want to wind up acting like Martha's when Mary's out there doing her thing. Anybody know about Martha and Mary? You know, the two sisters. when Jesus wanted to come and relax with his disciples and the hangers on, and they came to the house, Mary and Martha were in there cooking, right? They in the kitchen, because Jesus is in the house. Jesus is there. What they say? Look busy, Jesus is coming. So Mary was in the kitchen with Martha, and they in there, they whipping it up. They cooking, they doing their thing. All of a sudden, Martha turned around. Mary's out. She's gone. Martha's like, what the fiddle faddle? She go out there, and Mary is sitting at the foot of Jesus, just listening to him talk. He was probably sharing some parables. You know how Jesus, he was that was Jesus. So, Martha, she's a little tight. She's like, wait a minute. We got all these people here to cook for and serve, and you out here chilling. So she thought Jesus was going to be on her side. She thought he's going to be like, now Mary, you need to go in there and help Martha out. You know how we like to eat. Jesus looked at Martha, was like, yeah, well, she got the best seat in the house right there. Can you imagine how Martha must have felt? She probably was upset because they still were hungry and she knows she had to fix that food. So, if you are one of the main ones that will be in the kitchen during the Christmas holiday, don't be like Martha. Plan in advance. Get your mise en place together. Make sure you got your list of what you're fixing. So when you get to fixing, you're not frustrated. If you could prep some things in advance, that would help you a whole lot. One of the things I did for Thanksgiving is I had my main list. So I knew I was making a turkey, stuffing, candied yams, potato salad, macaroni, cheese, little stuff, meatloaf, collard greens, a little bit, little something. That's what I did for Thanksgiving, and plus the desserts. Oh, and corn muffins. Got to do corn muffins. But what I did is I said, okay, I'm making turkey. What do I need for the turkey? I'm making stuffing. What did I need for the stuffing? So I wrote down everything so I didn't forget. So when I went food shopping, you know how you go and you think you got everything and you miss an ingredient? Well, when you write your stuff down, so I knew I was making macaroni and cheese, right? So I know I need to make sure I had my cheeses. I need to make sure I had enough milk. I use 2 types of milk in my mac and cheese. So you do a little check. You check your pantry. You check and see what you need. You do that kind of stuff early, even though Christmas is like next week. Can you believe it? So, guys, if you're doing that and you're the one that's going to be in the kitchen, make sure you got everything you need. Try to do some stuff in advance. I knew I was making potato salad, so I prepped all my peppers, my onions, my celery, all of that in advance. So what I shared when I did that video is just the more you prep, the more you set things up in advance, the easier, it is to manage your time. And remember, the kitchen is your space, right? So if you're in there doing your stuff, that's your kitchen. That's your kitchen. Get familiar with it. Prep in advance. And my kitchen isn't a big kitchen, so it's prime real estate, my countertop space. So I had to manage my time, because I got one stove, and I'm talking about cooking like 8 things. So I had to flex. The things that needed to be cooked at 350, they go in together. Things that need to be cooked at a higher temperature, they don't. So, I had to be strategic. Guys, it's that kind of stuff that we go through during the holidays. And the holidays are supposed to be fun. You get to share your memories. You think about your loved ones. A lot of people around this time of year, we come together around food to celebrate and think about the people that we had in our life, or we celebrate the people that are still here. And we do it around food. But the biggest part of that is you, right? I like to say, you are creating memories when people are eating, talking, and laughing and enjoying what you fix. They may not realize how hard you work, but when you see them laughing, when you see them reaching for that, that extra stuff, or they want some Tupperware because your stuff is so good, remember you did that, and you put love into it. And when I bake, I put love in what I do. And one thing I like to say, if you're upset, don't go in the kitchen. Take a chill. 5 minutes out. When you feel good, when you calm, that's when you go back in. Well, I want to come to you tonight, not only just to say I love what was happening on Vlogmas, and I was a little intimidated. I said, but you know what? I'm going to put my hat in the ring and I'm going to go for it. Another reason why I'm so super excited about coming on tonight is because my granddaughter, she will be 5 on Christmas. She's a Christmas baby. So in 2015, we were in the hospital with my daughter. After I finished cooking, yes, I did cook, and then I went to the I went to the hospital. But she's going to be 5, and for the last, I've made her cake every year. But for the last 2 years, now that she's talking and walking, she's like, I like this, I like that, I like this, I like that. So for her 3rd birthday, I made her a Peppa Pig cake. For her 4th birthday, I made Vampirina. Her 5th birthday, y'all, what's with the LOL? So that's what she likes. I asked my daughter, I said, what's the theme this year? Because I got to go shopping. I got to get ready. This is serious business. So she said, oh, Ma, she likes LOL. What the fudge pickles? What is LOL? Anywho, I found out, and that's her theme. So that's going to be her cake. I want to take y'all through some of the goodies that I'm going to incorporate in her cake. So I'm just going to flip my camera around. And as I talk, I'm just going to do a little panoramic view of all the loveliness that I got going on. You ready? Because I'm excited. I'm super excited. And I already told my daughter, if anybody ever makes her cake besides me, it's fitting to be a problem. You understand me? Because that's my job. That's my grandbaby. Okay, hold on now. Okay, so these are going to be at the base of her cake. I'm going to separate these out. So it's going to be like lavender, pink, and blue. And then the next level is going to be like the yellow and the orange and the red. And that's going to be at the base. Then I'm going to incorporate the complimentary sprinkles, right? And because she's such a star, she's going to have stars around her name. Now, these, okay, so I'm old school. These are going to go on the top layer of her cake because the sixlets are going to be on the bottom. Okay? So her cake is going to be in lavender, pink, and I'm trying to decide which shade. Am I going to do blue or the sky blue? So I'm debating, but I have to look and see what type of I've been looking at a lot of pictures, so I'm down to 2 designs. And then these are the lollipops that are going to come out of the first layer. These are going to come out the top. And then these are going to go all around the cake. And this is her crown. And these are going to stick out too. I'm telling you. If you can't tell by now, I am super excited to start this child's cake. So, yeah, I forgot the M&Ms. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put like a little surprise in the middle of the top cake. First, I was going to do it on the bottom cake. I was telling Shauna from Shauna's Sweet Spots and More. I was telling her that I was going to, I don't even know what LOL is, Harry. It's some cartoon thingy, Bob. I don't get me the line. I don't know. But I know she likes it. And since my granddaughter likes it and her mother approves of it, then that's going to be the theme of her cake. So I rock with what mom says. If it's good for mom, I'm a back her play. So we're doing LOL this year. So these M&Ms are going to be the surprise in the middle of the top layer of the cake, right? And I was thinking about putting these in the bottom layer, but I'm like, when my kids were little, I didn't let them eat a lot of candy. But I'm the grandma. No, no, no. It's more for decorative. So the M&Ms are probably going to go inside the top layer. So when they cut into it, it's going to come out. So like I'm going to put the cylinder in, you know, and do that, and then they won't know. I'm gonna put it on top, and it's going to be frosted. I'm so excited, and that's the other thing about baking. When you do it from your heart and you really start getting into it, it could be as deep as you want or as easy as you need it to be. It could be something like making your favorite cookie or that favorite cake or that pie. It's not hard. It's some work that goes into it. It's a process. So when people say hard, it's like, oh no, I can't do this hard. It's a challenge. Right? Y'all remember that? A challenge. So doing these vlogmas is a challenge for me, but baking is a joy, and teaching other people how to do it and really embrace their individual creativity and doing it with the right steps, the right temperament, making sure they have what they need. I enjoy doing that. So this is my first vlogma. I'm looking forward to the feedback. I am currently working on getting more of my technical stuff together, but I didn't want to not show up in this space when I've been afforded the opportunity to listen in and glean some really great insight that I would not have otherwise um, been exposed to and been a part of. So my way of saying thank you is to stop just being a spectator and be a participant. And I hope that as I continue to do these, that I get better, that I'm utilizing some of the tips and tools that have been generously shared with all the people out here in this space. Um, so I thank the administrator for creating this platform. I thank Jason for inviting me, the Jason Hodge, for inviting me to this space. And I thank everybody out there as well. So, this is Regina from Regina's Baking Academy, where you get to learn that baking is cool, and so are you. And I always like to say, remember to be patient with yourself. I'm learning how to be patient with myself. Vlogmas is not something I know how to do clearly, right? But I know that I want to learn. So there's so many of y'all out here willing to help. So I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to put it into action. And that's what you get when you come to me, to my Baking Academy. If you're willing to learn, I'm willing to teach. Okay? And if anyone is interested in any of the um, lessons that I've done, I have over 100 video content, and I'm telling you everything from like start to finish on how to make stuff, put it together, pie doughs, all of that good stuff, cookies, cupcakes, all of that. It's in Regina's Baking Academy, and you're more than welcome to look at the content and that sort of thing, and just see what's going on over there. So when I come back next time, because I'll be coming back, like I said, I'm going to be improving not only the content, but the setup. So the first step was doing it. So I did that. And I hope that for those who aren't bakers, got a couple of good tips. And just to be patient. And if you're the Martha in the kitchen, don't be mad at Mary. If you got a Mary in your family that helps out and then dips out, and you already know that's what happens, what you do, good night. What you do is prep in advance, so that way you're not overwhelmed when if you're the one left doing the cooking. So you prep in advance, get your mise en place together, have your stuff set up where you're not feeling overwhelmed and you can still enjoy being with your loved ones. So that's me for now. Regina's from Regina's Baking Academy, where we get to learn that baking is cool. Be patient with yourself. Be patient with each other. We're not perfect. We're learning how to be better each day. So take care and bye for now.